Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well.
Hi, you guys. Happy day. I don't want to say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. It's just a super happy day, especially, and I don't know, it's just a great day. Hi.
I hope you all are doing well. I see. We got Judy K. We got Preliminal. We have Breakup from the Prison Planet. Good to see you guys. I hope everybody is enjoying their holidays with their family and loved ones. And I hope it's been a beautiful one for everyone. So, I just wanted to recap that, we did this where we sent prayers and intentions for Australia to see some rain. And we did get some rain, guys. It did rain. It hasn't rained enough, but we got rain, so that's kind of cool. That's definitely a positive.
That was way cool. That was really positive. I'll take it. So, what I've learned through my life is when I get even remotely the littlest hint of something that I like or I want, and I throw a whole lot of gratitude at that action that I've received, I get more of that action.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, we got to keep at it and keep going and keep trying to make some positive changes in this world. And I see a lot of familiar faces joining us. So happy holidays, Veronica and Stormy and Gerald and Catherine and Greg and Lemmy and Susan. Good to see you as always. Gary, Merry Christmas.
Hi, you guys. It's really great to see you guys tonight. Thanks for coming in, taking a break, stepping away from whatever, whoever, to chat with us tonight, because we have some really good stuff that we wanted to go over, some important stuff.
And somebody mentioned the Schumann, so let's take a peek. There you can see there was on the 24th, pretty good spikes there. Relatively calm today, nothing as crazy as we have seen. Let's see what it's giving us for power. It's not really loading it at the moment. 7.83 is the baseline. Let's see what we have here. 18 was one of the peaks at 3 UTC. So not exceptional today. So let's start out this, and this is Rosemary from Australia. So one of our
guys, Rosemary from Australia. Just wanted to
dear people.
Video of the drought situation here in New South Wales. Unfortunately, we still haven't had any rain in this part of the country.
Sorry guys, I blipped it.
Hi guys, Rosemary from Australia. Just wanted to give you a short video of the drought situation here in New South Wales. Unfortunately, we still haven't had any rain in this part of the country. I'm actually down in the Snowy Mountains. It's probably about 450 to 500 kilometres from Sydney itself. This is a place called Nimitabel. It's 1,100 metres above sea level. As you can see how dry the grass is. Normally this grass is luscious and green. This is where the wildlife come morning and afternoon, to have a bite to eat. We have deers, wild pigs, goats, kangaroos, wallabies, and there's heaps of foxes here as well. So, as you can see, it's not the ideal situation. It's very dry, a lot of down trees, and very dry, as you can see. I will send you a couple more videos of what the dams look like here. As you can see, it's very dry, no rain. Yeah, pray for rain for us guys. Thank you.
So let's pray for rain again for Australia and everybody there. And there's been some, so let's see it increase, and let's see the fires dissipate and go. And thank everybody for your positive intentions there. I see Miss Dragons in the house, and Dawn, Sandy Hopkins, good to see you as well. Yeah, it's very dry, and the fires, as I was saying in this morning's video, two major fires that they think are going to hook up and create a massive one. So let's again try to alleviate that situation. And when we look over here, and we've talked about this many, many times, but then, there's always new people coming on and they've never seen this. But Masaru Emoto did experiments with water, and just intention can change the shape of water. It could change the crystalline shape of water. Pure intention. Literally thinking about it works. Even just writing a word on a piece of paper and taping it to the glass works.
And this is one of the books that actually changed my life and had me stop and double check what I think, because it affects, like, if our bodies are made of that much water, I mean, it would make sense that we are creating these shapes and images inside of our body just with our thoughts.
Most definitely. So, we have to be very careful about our emotions, our thoughts, conscious, and what's running through our minds subconsciously all the time. Make sure they're as positive as possible. And when we're bombarded with the mainstream media with, so much happening on the world, it's impacting us. Every word that you hear impacts you. And so, like today, I got an email from somebody saying that they live in the Pacific Northwest, and just, could you not talk about it? Because, we're aware of the risk, but it's just like overload, and we don't want to hear it, basically. But then there's people that want to hear it too. So it's just one of those things where, a lot of people want to know because, and we could jump on and check the USGS real quick, because there's a lot of people that are kind of antsy right now and have felt like, something might be coming, and it's not fear mongering. People get intuitions, and some people are earthquake sensitive. Animals are earthquake sensitive, and there are people that are sensitive to earthquakes.
Yeah, and today I don't know quite really what happened to me, but I was like down flat today. I was having like physically a horrible, difficult day today, and I don't know if some of that was related to the upset with Mother Earth, but yeah, she is kind of on edge.
Yeah. Here we have a 3.4 off the coast of Southern California. You should see it out here. So there's been some interesting quakes. There's been a lot of quakes off the coast of Vancouver, and the article today was saying that scientists expect a 7.0 on Vancouver Island, and then we know the potential's here for a 9.0. So it's a big thing. It is a big thing. Not that you want to harp on it, but when you see unusual activity, you just want to let people know, just to be a little bit prepared. But as we were talking about with the science of water, our intentions are super powerful. And as we covered also before, the Maharishi effect, and many studies, not just one, many studies have shown that group meditation can lower a violent crime. And again, it doesn't even take a tremendous percentage of the population. I've seen it thought that even a third of 1% could affect tremendous change in a particular area. And so, like, one of the studies was in the DC metro, which has a lot of people. And, there was only, I think, 800 people at the start, and it finished with maybe like 2,400 people. So, a tiny portion. And yet it dropped the crime rate by like 20-something%. So as we could get more and more people doing this, exactly the effect of mass consciousness, waking up and focusing on the positive changes, most definitely. And a lot of you guys are probably empaths. I know Cindy and I are both extreme empaths. And sometimes, that's a blessing, but it could be a curse too.
It can be a curse. I know that these things are gifts and they're wonderful and beautiful, but sometimes you might get hit with information that you weren't expecting, and you might turn around and say the wrong thing to someone because something happened. And I don't know, it's just hard to always be on guard of the emotions and your feelings and your thoughts. It's a constant thing. And, things happen, moods do change, and it goes on for all of us. So it is a blessing and a curse, definitely.
And the thing is that we're all getting more and more sensitive energetically because of the changes that are happening around us with the magnetosphere dropping, more cosmic rays coming in. this is part of a process. And so we're heading out of the Kali Yuga and we're heading into more of a golden age. So that's a blessing. We're going from a dark age to a much more enlightened age. In so many ways, we've still been in the Stone Age, spiritually, most definitely. And good to see you guys. Good to see you, Tammy, as well, and Starburst. Oh, it's our pleasure, Sandy. It's our pleasure. Yeah. Greg's talking about Art Bell, and apparently made it rain in Death Valley because we're very close to where Art used to live, relatively speaking. And God, I listened to him all throughout the 90s. And I used to wake up at like 1 a.m. just to listen to him, and then go back to sleep. I loved listening to his show. Coast to Coast was great. So, we are going into the age of Aquarius, and we can manifest positive changes. So when you see stuff like this, the UN urgently needs $270 million to avert famine in South Sudan. And this is one of the areas that is at high risk for famine. And when you see 270 million, well, to you and I, that's like more money than we'll ever see in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's like to us, it's more money than God has.
Yeah, but when we look at the big scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket. It truly is. And when you're talking about famine, and, as we're looking over here, 5.5 million people face the risk of starvation in 2020. 5.5 million in 2020. And they're looking for $270 million. Do you guys think that sounds like an incredible amount when we're talking about, what these governments spend on different things? I don't. I really don't. And I see a lot of people talking that they loved Art Bell. I loved him too. I just thought he was a great storyteller. A great storyteller. It could really pull you in. And I really enjoyed him a lot. But I see that comment, Marsful Gold. Yeah, we know all about that. It sounds daunting, but 270 million is nothing when we look at the big scheme of things. I've brought this up so many times. Look at the military budget. This is the Trump discretionary budget request for 2019. $1.19 trillion. Of that, 727 billion with a B, billion for the military. So you don't think they could maybe take 270 million from this 727 billion, and instead of taking lives, save perhaps 5.5 million lives? What do you guys think of that? Am I just being naive? What's your thoughts?
Well, it's just, this is the way it is. This is the reality that we have to look at. This is one of these things that we can't really change perspective because it's not a matter of perspective. This just is what it is. But what could we do to help sway this situation, really?
Well, I think it's going to take enough people speaking up. It's something where the masses have to speak up. We've seen that it does work. We saw it with the yellow vests, and we saw it in Hong Kong as far as getting some official policies changed. We have to just let people know that this world is so ridiculously off kilter. It's just ridiculous to look at it. It's tragic and appalling at the same time.
Do you think just like enough of our intention, because it doesn't seem to matter, like even if you pick up the phone and call the White House or call your local politician, that doesn't seem to matter. But what about the power of thought and to change these people's minds, our intention sending out to them?
Yeah, most definitely. And so, that's been done before, where you're even praying for your enemy. And, that's been done before and has been known to actually change the heart and mind of an individual. And, I'm just going through some of these comments. Obviously there's a lot of distrust of the UN because we know the whole global system is broke. It's completely broke. Yeah, and as Mars Fool's Gold says, Space Force isn't cheap, but more fun to the elites than feeding starving people. This is just one situation. And if they're saying $270 million could save the lives of 5.5 million people, the military is supposed to save people's lives, right? But the reality is it's not necessarily the case from what we've seen. And people are waking up to that fact. It's not all about defending freedom, defending democracy. We're not that gullible anymore. People are just not that gullible anymore. We're waking up and realizing, so much of it's power grabs, so much of it's resources, so much of it is just competition between egos.
Well, it's their prioritizing what they want to prioritize, and they are going to prioritize money and power. And these individual beings, it's so sad, but what can we do? We can keep sending them love and intent for them to get the resources that they need to be fed. Maybe it won't come in the form of money, maybe it'll come in the form of donations, but we can send that intent out.
Breakup from the Prison Planet says, can you feel love in your heart chakra?
Yeah, I do. Every time I get on here with you guys, my heart starts pounding, and I start feeling the love in my heart chakra. Thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. So, we could set our intentions for a lot of things, and one of the things is, we really should set our intentions that this system itself, that the one that is so out of balance, the one that doesn't put the needs of the masses first and foremost, we should set the intention that system collapses and is replaced with something better. And that there's a change, an awakening in the masses, that the masses will awaken and recognize, we could do a lot better than this. This is the best we could do. This is the best we could do. Look at this distortion here. You got food and agriculture, 1% of the budget. We're facing crop losses. We're facing so much flooding damage that now it's really going mainstream. It's everywhere. People are waking up to this fact that we're going to be in trouble with food unless we switch our priorities. And so food and agriculture gets 1%. The military budget gets 61%. That's laughable.
I wonder if just a simple visualization, like we're looking at these, how it's cut in the pie pieces. What if a simple visualization, we increase food and agriculture, just in our minds? I wonder if that would have any effect.
Yeah, see it growing to like 10%. Yeah. See the military budget going down to like 11%. Yeah. 2% for science, 2% for energy and the environment, 5% for health, and you have 5% for housing and community education. It's so completely distorted and a travesty, and I just don't know how more people aren't talking about this. I've talked about this in a lot of videos, and of course they get demonetized, because they want to slap you on the wrist and say, no, you're not going to be suitable for all advertisers because, our advertisers basically, they benefit from death and destruction. In many cases.
Death, destruction, and division. Hey, that's 3 Ds. I did it. Sorry.
Yeah, and so Catherine Turley says our military was totally depleted by previous administrations as they sold us out to China. It wasn't depleted. That is just salesmanship. I don't buy it for a minute. We could look up, and I'll look up military spending by year so you could actually see that, no, the military spending's always been there. They just do that so they get a bigger budget. Now, are there certain covert deals going on, between politicians and countries? Well, yeah, obviously we know that's happening. And it's been, one administration after another that has done that.
Yeah, they've created these back doors, and these back doors have been being used for years and years and years and years and years, and that's why the whole thing is a joke. It's a scam. It's a sham. It's ridiculous, and the only way to fix that is to completely revamp everything. I mean, from ground zero.
So you guys can see this historical defense spending. You see it. It just always goes up. It goes up. It dipped a little bit here, but still it's at a massive amount. And boom, straight back up. So if we were depleted, by the previous administrations, then, we don't know how to manage our money well at all. None of those administrations know how to manage their money, if that's the case. I mean, perhaps we're still spending, $50 per nail and $2,400 per hammer. It's a joke. It's such a corrupted system. And again, and I know it's not a popular thing to take, because if I took a stance and was totally behind somebody, and bought into the matrix, which I could never do. So I would have a lot more views, and they would monetize me more, and they would put me out there to be recommended, because this channel was growing really, really fast. And then they've put the brakes on it, because I'm trying to wake people up to the fact that both parties are just completely bought and paid for. Completely, both sides. It's part of the lobbying that goes on. So anybody that's in office is paid for. By the time they get to that position, they're part of the machine. They're either part of the military-industrial complex or the banking cabal, the Illuminati. They're one of the two. So that's why we have this mess we're in. And they treat us like ping pong balls or tennis balls, however you want to look at it, just going back and forth, getting whacked from one side, whacked from the other, and nothing changes. So as long as we are just mad about the person that's in the office now and ready to go back again, like I was looking at a survey where they were saying that 55% of people want Trump impeached, and like 52% or something like that would vote for the Democrat now. It always hits my mind, why would you vote for either of these horrible parties that are completely corrupted? Both of them are corrupted. Completely, and so we have as long as we're in the matrix, just take Lisa Haven, just for instance, just because she gets a lot of views. She's just one of them, but she's totally on one side. Now, of course, she's on the conservative side of things, and there are people that talk about the basically getting hammered by the powers that be, free speech. Yeah, but at the same time, she's doing well. She has tons of views, and she's not being hammered because she's totally in the matrix, and she's just one. There's a ton of them out there that are like that too, and they're not getting inhibited because they're still taking a side, which is ultimately what the powers that be want you and I to do. When we don't take a side and say we're not going to play your game, that's when we're a danger to the system.
We are a danger to the system if we start to figure out and explain to people that we can use our power of intent, our meditation to make things better. That's going to become a problem.
Lua B says there's only 2 companies left that sell seeds to the public, and that's true. That's part of it. There's only 6 major companies that control all the media when you get down to it as well. It's it's part of this control grid that is just taking absolute control of all of us, all of our lives, and then they wanted to put out, and they did, those GMO seeds, which will contaminate things. It's all about controlling everybody. And as Tammy says, countries around the globe protesting, waking up to all the corruption. And, if we look at it, so, we could see the military spending, it always goes up. And then if we look at it and break it down globally, you see the USA here. This is 2018. USA's 36%, and then China is 14%. and it breaks on down past that. So, the amount that the U.S. spends, if the U.S. was depleted militarily, because this ratio has always been about this, it's been pretty much in the same area for quite a while now. If we have been depleted militarily, then we have the most incompetent leadership the world has ever known, ever.
Yeah, I mean, the answers are pretty straightforward. They still treat us like we're idiots, though, and they'll figure, well, we'll just gloss over it. We won't notice. We won't do anything about it. Can't do anything about it. But, I do believe that there is something we can do as far as meditation and intent goes and change this with our minds, because thoughts are things. They're not just these vapors that go to nowhere. They actually do something, and I think that's one of the things they keep from us.
Yeah, and so, as is said here, two wings on the same bird. Exactly. It's two sides to the same coin. It's just keep flipping it. Just keep flipping it. How could we expect anything different when we keep putting the same two parties into power? And, the thing is, though, if somebody's really getting close to getting there and in power, then it gets very dangerous, and it gets very dangerous probably for them as well. And that's where you have some things develop, and accidents do happen sometimes.
They do, just like we were talking about that. I don't want to mention any names, but these people that have these accidents that are virtually impossible, they do happen.
Yeah, I know which one you're thinking about. You're thinking about the author that wrote the books on some very touchy subjects having to do with some really powerful lobbies and industries, and then that person met a very, very unusual demise. There's been a ton of those, so that's part of the system. So what can we do? Again, we can use our attentions, because as we saw here, 1/3 of 1% can affect change. So the more people we can wake up, the better. And that's just par for the course. So 270 million to save 5.5 million lives. I would say take it out of the U.S. military budget in a heartbeat. I think it's worth saving lives. Is that what we're supposed to be doing in all these countries? Because we were in 90% of the countries of the world in 2017 militarily, helping them. Well, let's help them. Let's give them the 270 million from that, incredible military budget, and actually save 5.5 million lives. To me, okay, that's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are people just like me and you. I mean, they're just stuck in a situation where they're powerless to do anything about it. And how sad is that? Look at that mom with her child. You think she wants better for her children? Oh my God, yes, just like I would, just like you would. And it's just so sad what they do. And I think if we send love and good intentions to these individuals, maybe it won't come, the money and food won't come from external sources, but maybe they'll find it somewhere like within their area.
Yeah, the video I did maybe about 4 or 5 days ago, maybe it was a week ago, talking about the potential breakup of the U.S. I don't think it would be a bad thing, honestly, because I think through the bigger government, the more dangerous it is to the people. And so breaking something down into smaller segments, like if the states went and just completely governed themselves and there was no federal government, then all that money that's spent defensively would go back to each individual state, and they would do what they thought best. And again, people can't control things on a state level, and of course a lot easier than on the national level. And then we could also control things and affect change much, much quicker in a community. Mm-hmm. Like in this tiny community of, I don't think there's 1,000 people here. I really don't. Everybody kind of knows everybody. You could affect change kind of quick, just by word of mouth. And it's the same thing. So, we could affect change in the states most definitely, rapidly, and much quicker than you can move against the big monster, the behemoth of the federal government. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously this is all about conquest. And do you know that the empire that extended the greatest amount, the one that had the most land coverage, was the British Empire. That was number one, the Mongolian Empire number two, and then the Russian Empire number three. But I don't think the British Empire ever died. I just think this is an extension of it, and that British Empire is really, it's the ones that we call the Illuminati, the banks, the families. And so I believe really that traces right back to the Roman Empire and back to Sumerian times as well. I think it's just an extension going on. And so, as we were talking about, it's just ridiculous the amount of money that's spent on armaments. Incredible. 52% defense, non-defense 48%. And don't call it defense. There's nobody invading the U.S. Right. There's no armies on U.S. soil. It's offense.
It is. It's ridiculous how they do things, and it's like they have all the power in the world to do whatever they want. And I want to personally, I would like to try to take some of that power and put it where it belongs, and it belongs to the hearts and minds of these people that are going hungry. It's just terrible. And I think we can make a difference, you guys. We made it rain a little bit in Australia. Granted, it wasn't exactly what we needed, but hey, intention.
So as we see, the U.S. spends as much as the eight next largest countries combined, and most of them after that are just tiny and minuscule in comparison. And so it's just horrible when we see this. Now, this is out of Yemen, and Yemen's a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and you could also look at it as basically between the West and Russia in some ways, Russia-Chinese alliance there with Iran. And, it's just the average people that are suffering. And many people don't realize that in Yemen, there's anywhere between 5 to 10 million people that will probably face starvation in the upcoming year. 5 to 10 million. And they've faced so much, between the bombs going off and then the disease after the fact, losing their homes, being in tiny little tent cities, and there's no food. They're starving. So what are we doing, with this huge military budget in supposedly protecting freedom across the world? And you got little guys like this that are starving. Something is really amiss, and I don't buy it. I don't see any of these politicians starving. They all look like they could lose 50 pounds in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, they're all so extremely healthy, and they all wear these $1,000 suits and all this expensive thread. They drive the best cars. They even have money to get their families houses and cars. It's just ridiculous. And then we have this little baby here. What does he want? He wants some warm soup. I mean, it really is. It so hard?
Yeah. I mean, it's atrocious. It's horrible. So, it just reminds me of like when in Buddhist philosophy, it's thought that Buddha was on a different planet in a different star system, and he heard the suffering of people on Earth, and so he came to Earth to show them the way, the middle path of how we can change things. And then we see it, today's Christmas, and we think about Christ, and what would he think about that military budget? I mean, he did say, "Rent to Caesar what is Caesar's." But at the same time, it was never about taking up the sword. It was, quite the opposite. Always about love and compassion. And, I just think it's such a complete travesty. And if we think that any of these politicians are anything but self-serving, at the top levels, then we're being very naive.
Yeah, we are. In any of them that anyone could say, oh, no, but this one's different. Really, I don't see how any of them are different. How have any of them made any decent change? In fact, I think if they were to go into office and actually make a change, they'd probably be taken out.
And, Greg, you are right. I mean, what that person was telling you is correct. And, I've done the research myself, too. And it all looks completely legit. We basically are a corporation. And the power really hasn't shifted. Just the apparent power has shifted, but the powers stay basically in the same place.
Yeah, they do. It's just one of those things that we thought, well, maybe we would come on and think about these people, not just these people over here that are hungry, but everybody that's hungry in the US really shouldn't be. We have more than enough resources to take care of people.
So the comment there is the U.S. military is nothing more than strong arm of the D.C. Are you guys purposefully on the level, Florida Marquis, with your views in the reduction of the federal government, or is it just coincidental? No, I agree with what he was saying there, and I think again, totally. I mean, I'm a libertarian, so a libertarian, it's all about personal liberties. And it's all about minimal government, if any. That's basically my view on it. Is government becomes the problem. It really does. The bigger the government, the bigger the problem, and eventually it leads to tyranny. And whether it's overt or covert, it's tyranny.
So my thoughts is if we can each individually think of a government that's more in control and more compassionate and more for the people, and then also think of these other people and maybe just think that they'll find food tonight or they'll find a meal tonight, and I think that will help. I think it'll make a difference.
Yeah, so we definitely want to send our prayers, and please everybody, like after the video or even right now, just go ahead and take a little time to send love and healing energy to the people of Yemen, and may the war stop. If we could just get the soldiers of this world to recognize that there's a better way. And I covered a story on Patreon because it's kind of touchy for YouTube, but there was a National Guardsman that was made a statement that hit a lot of the news outlets, where basically he was talking about the situation with gun confiscation in Virginia, and he just said that he's not going to do it. He's not going to confiscate it because he thinks it's breaking the Second Amendment, and it's part of his duty to protect the American people, and that includes their ability to protect themselves. So, we're seeing some of the states are doing things that are damn scary, just damn scary as far as like really taking away civil liberties. And, I hate to see that. There's definitely states that while I think they might be beautiful, there's no way in the world I would live in them.
Right, exactly. There's some I know California is gorgeous and the weather is really nice, and I did try to live there, but it nearly killed me. Not only is it just really, the energy is so thick, and if you're in somewhat of a populated area, it can really get to you. And then the taxes, like if you have a house in California, I think the property taxes are just through the roof, probably as much or higher than your mortgage. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Tammy. Tammy says nobody should go hungry in the world. There's no reason for anybody to go hungry in the world. There's none. It's just that things are so twisted. And there was another article today too, where one of the leading economists was saying that the best thing ever happened to the world was capitalism, and I'm not sure if I agree with that. Communism as we know it hasn't worked, but that's because of human ego and greed again. So it's the same thing. You get people at the top that will abuse any situation. We see it time and time again. And so they live like kings and queens. And whether we call them presidents or premiers or whatever, they're still kings and queens to a very, very high degree, as the statement was in there that we're basically all serfs. And you're right. That's still the same feudalistic society. It's just changed a little bit. But the gap between the haves and the have-nots has increased tremendously. It's really disgusting.
And it's on the rise too. It's like you can see it growing, a little bit faster nowadays than a frog in boiling water. It seems a little more tangible, like the visual, day to day to day.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, lots of great minds thinking alike here. And, we see it. We recognize what's going on, and it's just a travesty. So when I see the politicians talking about, the need for this, the need for that, and, then they'll bring up something that's a tragedy and look like they're trying to put on the tears and stuff, but it's just BS. They don't really care.
Yeah, it's total theater. They're putting on a play. They got to put on something for the camera. They have to make it look good. They have to seem heartfelt, but really they're just in it to collect their next paycheck.
Yeah, and that's both sides, again, as we see, there's so much suffering over in Syria as well. And obviously Iraq has had its share of suffering. Afghanistan has had nonstop war for 50 plus years, and you got to say, why? I saw somebody say today on a forum, why are we still in Afghanistan? Well, there's a lot of poppy fields there. And so, as we know, so many pharmaceuticals are made from opiates, and opiates create addictions. And I had asked you guys before, what happened with Tyler, from Secure Team. And I guess it turns out that, after he had his crash, this is just what I heard. I have not verified it. But I had people say to me after his crash, I guess he got perhaps addicted to painkillers, and that happens to so many people. And then he got, driving under the influence. So, how many people that happens to? I know you do, Cindy.
Yeah, it's definitely affected myself, my family, plenty of people that I love, and it's just a really, really nasty addiction. And it's like they do it on purpose. They know what's going to happen. They get people in them and on them, and then you can't get off.
Yeah, that was a great comment, Breakup from the Prison Planet. Have you heard that they send all the pretty actors to Hollywood and all the ugly ones to Washington?
That's fabulous. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and as Tammy says, she knows the military controls the heroin, the drugs, the illegal drug trade. That's why they're there. Obviously, we would all assume they're there for oil and other natural resources. But also, make no mistakes about it. It's about the drug trade as well. It's a mess. And meanwhile, you see these type of pictures everywhere. So, I hope they're having a good holiday season, regardless of their religious affiliation. But, it's going to be tougher when you're living in circumstances where your house has been blown up. You're living in a tent. And there's sickness and disease and no food to be spared, and still the threat of bombing. It's just horrible. There's no reason for this in this day and age. It's really on the leaders of this world that they're the ones that are doing these things. And so, but then again, they are the puppets being controlled by the puppet masters, which are the big corporations which make the money on the suffering of the masses. So please do. So we'll send our prayers and positive intent to the people of Syria and Yemen and Sudan and also Australia. We need to do this on a more regular basis. And it'd be wonderful if everybody can make it part of their life. When you start to do this, do things like this on a regular basis, it really blesses you. It changes you on the inside and changes priorities. It somehow opens your heart to a much greater degree, and it's a beautiful thing. So again, let's see these wars stopping. Let's see the corporations that are causing this suffering. Let's see their profits fall and fail, and let's see those corporations dissolve, and let's see this gap between the haves and the have-nots shrink, and all the wrongs be righted.
Yeah, I think we could do a lot with our individual visualization practices. There's a lot that we can do, and that's a way we can take the power back, and that makes things not so frustrating. It's like we know that there's proven effects from meditation and visualization. So just visualizing these things is going to help, and that helps. Yeah, it takes the frustration out of a lot of things.
So you guys know what an oxymoron is, right? Well, things like the Patriot Act, that's an oxymoron. The war on drugs was an oxymoron. They'll make something out to be something that is exactly the opposite of. And we see that time and time again.
Yeah, we do. It's over and over and over,
Yep. Most definitely. So, let this pain and suffering stop, and let's have real change. As you see here, extreme weather leaves 45 million in southern Africa facing severe food shortages as well. Unprecedented drought will endanger the food supply for tens of millions of Africans in the coming months, and the link to climate change is increasingly clear. And so, that's we know it's the earth changes that we're seeing, and many of us are very, very, suspicious about just how many are being caused by the grand solar minimum and the magnetic pole reversal and external effects as well, such as the cosmic rays coming in. And because that is increasing, and there's a galactic superwave that's going on. And if you guys watch Suspicious Observers, Ben was bringing it up again this morning, and Ben's one of the ones that he's one of the only ones that I get every day in, and then here and there I'll check out other ones as you guys are sending me stuff to look at. But yeah, there's also this galactic superwave. So, we're in this energetic part of, our galaxy that we return to every so often, and it causes havoc with the planet, and it causes havoc with everything in our solar system and other stars as well, as they roll through this area. So, think of it as perhaps a giant gas nebula interacting with everything, because everything is interrelated, as we know from quantum entanglement. And it looks more and more all the time like the electric universe theory is probably the most accurate theory out there as well.
Yeah, the electric universe, and as far as our voltage is concerned, raising your vibration, raising your voltage, it's a little bit like the same thing. And eating like really good foods, I think the processed foods they've put out there for us is keeping our vibrations low on purpose. And when your vibration is low, I don't know how effective are you, I wonder, when you meditate or you send intention out into the world. But I think if we can raise that and become more conductive, it would help.
Yeah. So Breakup from the Prison Planet's talking about a third eye. If it's open, you have more psychic energy than most around you. That's why when I look at certain politicians, I know they're not, people with white hats. I could see their energy. I could see the lies. It's just so easy, So it's like I look at them and I know they're lying. You could see it on them, and Cindy you could see some color, but you could, as far as color of the aura, and Emma, her daughter, could see an awful lot, and a lot of the kids are really, really gifted, and so they're not going to be able to be swayed by these politicians, because the older generation didn't have as many super intuitive empaths as we have now. We're getting more and more waves of people coming in that are really gifted psychically, and then everybody here is really increasing in their psychic abilities. So they've done the studies, the CIA, the FBI. I've told you about those. There's declassified CIA studies that show that when we're getting into this period, the more cosmic rays that hit us, the more psychic we all get. So thus we know we could just see the bullshit for what it is so clearly.
We can, and I don't know, there's one saying I heard, how do you know when a politician is lying? And basically just when their lips are moving.
Yeah, exactly. So, we need some super real change. And as I was saying before, and kind of getting towards in the other video this morning and in other ones, if we're going to make it through this period with the changes that we're seeing right now on the globe with the weather, the floods are just undeniable. Yeah, it's just undeniable. We're going to have to do such massive works that it's going to make the whole thing that Roosevelt did back in the Great Depression, I'm trying to remember the name of that. but the massive public works where they built so many of the highways because they were trying to do anything to get out of the Depression. And so this was a way to put people to work. And ultimately, the World War took care of the Depression because, wars bring a lot of money to certain businesses for sure. That's obvious. But we're going to need such massive public works on such a scale that, it would just mean kind of like figures almost like the military budget at making sure that we have food for everybody and making sure that whole cities are not going to be going underwater. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort, and there's not enough being done at all. People are starting to wake up to the fact and starting to demand change. We see that with Greta and others, and many people are cynical about Greta, if she's another Hollywood actress or not. But still, we need some serious change.
Yeah, we do. And I think that it's going to come in the form of us realizing that we do have the power to use our intention and visualization to create these changes, which I think is an absolute beautiful, beautiful thing because, the studies are out. We can affect these things. It's great. It's wonderful.
We definitely could. And when we look back to the past, thinking about things like the Great Irish Famine, famine causes massive migrations of people. And then we also have these earth changes causing massive migrations of people. And that leads to a lot of issues. And one of them would be the increased risk of pandemic, most definitely. Disease could flourish in horrible conditions. And if you see what these camps look like, they're horrible. And the people are malnourished. That's going to lower their immune systems. And they're also under stress, and that perhaps will lower the immune system even more than being malnourished.
Yeah, it would. Just simply being under stress. So it's really important that we learn how to use our brains can really be friend or foe. So it's important to get along with yourself to keep from being under stress. There's a lot of things that we can just let go and help boost our immune system just by thought alone.
Most definitely. And so that's one of the good things is the fact that our ability to heal ourselves and heal each other is increasing exponentially. And, I did meditation and mantras and QiGong before coming on for this video. And just the way that the energy gathers, it's just so powerful now. It just hits me like, boy, if I just would spend like a solid hour and a half in the morning and then the same at night, it almost feels like you could be almost inhumanly strong and just so vibrant.
Well, yeah, mentally strong, and that's where it's at. Our brains are a receiver and a sender, and if we can learn to kind of harness that and work with it, we'll be in good shape.
I haven't read that book, Audrey, but I will check it out, and I don't doubt it, because everything has been created purposely when we get down to it, even the Civil War. As we talked about the Banking Act of 1871 and everything that's come after that. So, we've seen that. There's Angaya Richard Dolan's did a great series. I think it might still be ongoing. And it's all about false flags because there's been a ton of false flags going way, way back. And this planning has been just ongoing and it goes back hundreds of years.
Yeah, it would be kind of fun to sort of look up all the different false flags and maybe even do a show on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done some in the past. So one of Europe's worst famines was likely caused by devastating floods. And I was talking about this before, 1315, 1317. This was one of the worst population collapses in Europe. And this is the one that actually led to people being cannibals. Cannibalism came about in this time period. It was that bad. And so, again, this also coincides with the wolf minimum, so wolf grand solar minimum. And it's scary, but what we're going into, some people think the one we're going into could be as bad or worse. So, the population is much larger now, much larger now. But, I got to wonder how many of these cycles we've gone through. And I've started a couple of times to do a video, which I'll try to get done tomorrow, talking about the Mahabharata. It's one of the Hindu holy books, because in it talks about the battle that started the Kali Yuga, the battle that actually started this dark age, which was, about 5,114 years ago or so, a little bit off, but in that general vicinity. And in that battle, 1.6 billion people died in just one battle in the Great War. And, we didn't think there was that many people on the earth then, because, that, I could look it up, but I think that's probably about what was on the earth in 1900, so, because it's grown so much in this past 100 and something years. So how many times have we had a really advanced civilization and been totally wiped out as well? There's tons of evidence to that. And you got to wonder, what are all the causes? Is it the sun going nova? Because, boy, it sounded like, Ben's thinking that that's going to happen in our lifetimes. Others think so as well. Douglas Vogt, Diehold Foundation thinks that. I think he was picking 2046 for the year the sun goes kind of nova, and, we're back to square one, those of us that are still alive. And might be more than the vast majority of the globe will probably not be here in that one, if that is the case. My intuition, I've never seen that, and I don't know if that's because I'm not here when that happens, but I've just never felt or seen that happening.
No, I don't feel any major cataclysms happening. Now, I did have this tsunami dream, but that was more like, I don't know, maybe that was triggered by something else, but I don't feel any major stuff happening in our lifetime. I think, though, you and I and everybody else in the chat, I think it's in our DNA memory that we have gone through something like this in the past.
Yeah. So, Susan says, give up every bit of tech to go back in time. I think some of the older societies that we've had on this planet had the ability to do probably everything we could do now, and if not more, probably way more. But yet they chose to live in different type of environs. They chose to work with stone, and they chose to do things differently and not so harmfully to the environment. And perhaps they had a better sense of the fact that the earth is a living being. We're supposed to be in a symbiotic relationship to it instead of acting like a virus.
Well, yeah, Mother Earth is a living being, and they had things much more in harmony, and it was nice. They were nice to her because I think they would ask her if they could build certain things. Like these days, you wouldn't just walk up and mark up your mom's face. You wouldn't do that. And that's what we've done now. It's like, because we treat her like she's a thing, and really she's a being. Now we have stuff going up into the sky. We have Mother Earth, Father Sky. Mother Earth has been very tolerant, so I'm curious about Father Sky, if he's going to knock stuff out or not.
So as we're looking at this again, the years of the Great Famine, where people actually ate people, cannibalism was, something that was, happening. It was that bad. They were some of the wettest years. And look what we have going on now. The Great Famine flooding was found, massive flooding in 13, 14, 15, and 16. Fifth wettest sequence of the summers on record. It's a repeat of what we have going on right now. So that's something we need to be aware of. And again, I think we could cruise through these changes, unless, maybe not cruise if the sun goes nova. But even if it did, if we, built underground and basically, built enough of these underground cities, because we know that there are those for the elites. And, one of the things that's very eye-opening is that in case of nuclear war, Russia could get almost all their citizens, a huge percentage of their citizens, into underground shelters. Where's ours in the U.S.?
Well, I know where the mines are, but the underground mines, I know that doesn't really count. But yeah, I've heard that they have things where they can actually shelter their people, and they've talked to them about these things. And, I bet you the politicians they know where ours are.
Greg says 2024 is the year for the San Madrid fault line. That's why I thought As soon as I saw that X, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. And, the way that it goes, too, it goes like right through some of the fault zones. And let me hand this to Cindy real quick while I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, so 2024 is going to be an interesting year. A lot of things are happening, a lot of things coming up. And one of the things that I do to keep, from being in a fear mode with that is I keep taking my health back, trying to make sure that I really don't need to go see a doctor. If I do need to see a doctor, if it's absolute, then, get it taken care of now. And then get healthy, eat the right food, do the right things. If you're not sure what to do, just simply find the next right thing and do that. And here we go.
Yeah, so yeah, it is. It's pretty much, it's right on the New Madrid, when you look at it that way. And when you look at the first one that we had, I'm wondering if that's referencing Cascadia, because it comes right in there in Oregon. And then, for those of you that don't know, Charleston is on a fault line as well, and there's been major quakes there in the past, and I think it was 1880 something, 81 maybe 1881. There was like over a 7.1, 7.2, and it's all sand there, so it actually caused it to be almost like quicksand. It kind of liquefied the ground and did a lot of damage. So I just looked at the positioning and thought, well, there's a major fault line there right at Charleston where that line goes through, and then Cascadia is up over there by Oregon and Washington, and the New Madrid's right in the middle. And we could also look and see there's been a lot of activity up in the St. Lawrence, which goes right along the top line there, going through Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire and New York State. And we saw quakes even in Ohio, right there along that line, now that I think about it. Well, then what about Texas? Well, there's a lot of fracking going on. We do actually see more and more quakes all the time in that area as well. And then the potential, obviously in Mexico of some great quakes is just, it's obvious. We know that. So I really feel that this is quake related. This X marks the spot. But I also feel, and I felt this for a long time as well, it's also related to, kind of the end of the U.S. as we know it. And I've always wondered, will this be like the time period of that Civil War, Second Revolution, or the invasion that many people have seen? If the U.S. is toasted from Cascadia going, and then all of a sudden you have the San Andreas go, and you have, the New Madrid go, and we're in chaos here, then maybe there could be an actual invasion, as many people have seen an invasion of China and Russia on the U.S.
And I don't know about you guys, but when the eclipse did happen on August 21st, 2017, I noticed a huge energy change. It was like, I don't know, something shifted in the ether. Did anybody else feel that? I mean, it just felt so weird. I had so many chills. It was crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, and a lot of activity in California, as we were talking about. There's definitely, and we could see some new ones going. 3.2 over here, and this is down in Searles Valley. This is China Lake, Ridgecrest area. And, is this going to be a super volcano? Let's hope not. Let's hope not. As we told you, we're just over the border, and so we're really close to this area, and we do feel shaking every now and then. We'll just feel it. Just, nothing massive, but yeah, there's a lot of activity going on, most definitely. So as we go through these times, obviously we're in a time period that has an awful lot of potential for tremendous famines. And yet we can do things about it if, there was a will. As you see here, officials warn of looming famine in South Sudan. And we've covered so many of these areas. Monitoring conflict and climate could help stop famines before they happen. Because that's really what it is again. And I honestly believe that, 99% of the world could get along completely peacefully. I think there's just this small percentage that wants these conflicts, that wants the chaos, because, there's great profits to be made in chaos. And look at this, war-ravaged Yemeni children are going to suffer for hunger for 20 years, new report says. Boy, that's not good news, and I think we could stop that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think we could just wipe out that headline right there and change it and say, war-ravaged Yemen children will not suffer from hunger for the next 20 years, nor will they ever suffer from hunger. I think if, they can put that information out there and have us look at it, see it, feel it, think it, and then maybe that's what's causing it to happen. So why don't we just change that headline in our own mind?
Exactly. We don't have to accept this negative outcome. As you see here out of UN news, tens of thousands one step away from famine as drought impacts harvests, and UN launches flash appeal. It's just, I feel like it's completely ridiculous. And there's things going on in the U.S. as well, everywhere too. I mean, we know Australia, Rosemary has shared about there as well. We've seen the headlines. The thought is, there's going to be a lot of food shortages in Australia. There's going to be some in the U.S. as well. A lot of the farmers are really under pressure, and it's so hard for the farmers to make it anyway in today's world. And they're forced to do so many things, just forced, strong-armed into doing so many things that a lot of times they don't even want to do. And then the insurance losses, are mounting. You're going to have a lot of insurance companies. Obviously, your premiums are going to go up, and a lot of people aren't going to just get insurance either. So everything that we saw happening through the Heartland last spring, it's a huge impact. There's just so much that didn't even get planted. And then in Canada, there's crops that didn't get harvested because it's under ice and snow. So I also wanted to share with you a couple of others. So this is one of our family members on the left here, Chris. He's going through a healing crisis. So please send him light and love. And he's in Florida, and we plan on stopping by and visiting with him when we get to Florida, as we'll be heading towards the southeast to visit friends and other EA family members, and just to get a little bit more warmth. It's been, for the most part, in the 40s here and damp, and then, as far as your high, and then in the 20s overnight. It's been kind of cold for what you would think Death Valley would be.
Yeah, it's really cold. It's kind of deceitful too. A lot of days, if it is sunny, you step outside and it's bone chilling cold. So yeah, it's time to kind of neander on over to the warm stuff.
And not forgetting our canine friends, this is Wally. So please send Wally healing energy as well. And Wally is a sweetheart as well, and part of our bigger EEA family. And then I was going to ask you guys too, this is me back in January of 2018 with my mom. And this was at Siesta Key in Florida. And if you could send healing energy to her as well, and prayers and best intent, as she is going through what might be her getting ready to go to the other side. So, but I never accept anything. She is 90, but she's been super healthy her entire life until just really the last year or so. And she's still pretty with it mentally as well. So I do want to ask for you guys, your positive energy there as well. And as always, join us on Patreon if you feel so inclined, and help the channel keep growing. We are on BitChute and Brighteon as well. And also, if you feel so inclined, join us on Ko-Fi as well to help support the channel. And make sure you're subscribed to the second channel, EE Arts, as well.
Yeah, you guys, it would be wonderful if you came on over and checked out Patreon and stuff. We have some new things we put up there. different tier levels and whatnot. And we really appreciate you coming out tonight and kind of stepping away to be with us. It's just been wonderful. Thank you.
And Ellie, you said that your Coco's getting lumps on her. You could send energy into them. Cindy's done this time and time again, and they'll dissolve and go away. I've been able to work on many clients and have had all sorts of growths just disappear, and they're gone.
Yeah, with my dog, they popped. They actually popped the next day, and I laid there and I sent energy into them. Also, turmeric is a really good preventative, and I give it to my dog. I don't know, you might want to just make sure your dog is okay with it before you give her too much. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do for that.
Yeah, and we do have to do a lot more health-orientated videos. It's been a long time since they did a lot of that. So, my friends, thank you so much for joining us on this Christmas Eve. Christmas Day night.
Wow,
what would you call that? Christmas Day night.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it. Has a ring to it. Christmas Day night.
Yes. Well, happy holidays, guys. Much love. As always, thank you for your support. God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.